But we do notice that the recession has had a big impact, and that's shown in the decrease in our employment rates. There's not enough affordable housing for the folks, and we hear that again and again. And most who are homeless today have barriers to living independently. There are people that can, just need a place to live and that's it, but a lot of them need a little bit of support as well. And youth on their own are the most likely to be staying outside of the shelter system. They're the most invisible of the population. And there's been a lot of efforts recently in our state to focus on homeless youth, and I think that those services now will probably make a difference for the next time we do this study. But at that point, we were still seeing a lot of youth staying outside of the shelter system. And we still see the poverty and homelessness concentrated among people of color. The disparities are large. We do see some good news in our homeless study. So over this 21-year period, we've seen some improvements among groups targeted for solutions. Like I said before, for single long-term homeless adults, there's been a lot of efforts to serve them, and for veterans. And so for both of those groups, we've seen the numbers going down.
I'm wondering, I'm looking for things that have worked. So in 2004, there was a plan to end homelessness in Minnesota by 2010, and I think there was $74 million of state funds allocated towards that. And I know there was some federal money in the last couple of years. I'm not exactly sure, maybe 30 million, I'm not exactly sure, 40, 50, somewhere in there. But the question is, have we been able to get the data that shows us what works?
What we have seen is, in our other work, is that housing that helps people get housing, what they call housing first, where they can get into housing right away and then address some of their issues rather than having a lot of requirements to access housing, is an effective way of addressing some of these issues so that people can get housing right away.
We learn more and more all the time about the positive impact that having a stable and affordable place to live has on the ability of both adults and children to succeed at tackling some of the other issues in their lives, whether that be a disability, mental illness, performance in schools, other health issues. All of those things are really difficult to do if you don't know where you're going to be sleeping tonight. Families experiencing homelessness are dealing with a multitude of issues. 71% of the parents of homeless families have a chronic health problem, mental health problem, or substance abuse disorder. 71% of the homeless families have one or more of those three disability groups that you heard. 47% of homeless families include a child with a learning or school problem, almost half. 26% include a child with emotional or behavioral problems, and 15% include a child with chronic or severe physical health problems.
The whole trend of the millennials that are not buying homes and are more interested in other things like, they would rather rent or lease than buy homes. Is that obviously has had an impact, and is the market responding to that? Is there any indication that the market is responding to that, so there will be a loosening up of some of these lower end rentals for the homeless?
Investors nationally have recognized that we have a pretty hot market, and if you're developing market rate housing, it's actually pretty easy to get lending capital today for building rental properties. However, and there was an article about this in the Tribune on Monday of this week, what we're seeing is that the cost of developing rental housing, ownership as well, but particularly rental housing, is really escalating, particularly with the pressure for construction workers out in the Bakken oil fields. We have developers all over the state telling us that they just can't even get multiple bids for properties that they're trying to construct, where they have all the money to construct them, because they can't get contractors to even bid because they're busy out in the oil fields. So the cost of housing is going up, but I didn't bring it with me, but if you look at incomes of middle-income folks and particularly lower-income folks, they have remained very, very flat. So what you have is the cost of producing the housing going up and incomes and the ability to pay rent staying the same.